Before I get started with this video, I would like to thank Celebrated Player for sending me this update. And shout out to you, by the way, because that means you have been watching my videos for quite some time and knowing that this has been a case and a story that I've been following for well over a year now, ever since it first happened last year. So this is a David Desper update. He's the one who killed Bianca Roberson before she was getting ready to go to college in that road rage incident. Remember, I always said that for some reason, white people have the worst road rage ever. And basically, to give you a quick summary, she was driving, she was getting some stuff prepared for school, and I guess she may have cut him off or something like that. He got upset, he pulled out a gun, and he shot her in the head, and her car went off into an embankment. And she died. And he's pretty much been locked up since that happened, awaiting any type of trial or sentencing, whatever he was going to receive. So the update that just came through is that he pleaded guilty to third-degree murder. And that's probably like the lightest, like one of the lightest sentences that you could probably get, because it wasn't, they said it wasn't murder in the first degree. Which I'm kind of glad that they didn't go for, because then that means he would have had to premeditate that he was the one, that he was intending to kill her even before what happened ended up happening. So they're going with third degree murder. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this article coming from NBC Philadelphia. It says the cry started long before the plea hearing. Sobs and hiccups could be heard throughout the Chester County Justice Center Wednesday afternoon as the family of Bianca Roberson waited to face her killer. David Desper of Trainer, Pennsylvania, pleaded guilty to third-degree murder and related weapons charges for a road rage killing that made national headlines. Her mother thinks he got off too lightly. My baby, Michelle Roberson cried. He just killed her. On the evening of June 28, 2017, Desper and Roberson played a deadly game of cat and mouse. The 18-year-old Roberson of West Chester had been out shopping 1 week before leaving for her freshman year of college. Investigators said she and Desper jostled for the same lane on Route 100 in West Goshen Township, but instead of letting it go, Desper pulled out a gun and shot Roberson in the left side of her head. Roberson's car flipped off the road and Desper's gunshot wound. She died from the gunshot wound. Police said Desper, who had a history of drag racing, fled to a friend's home in Delaware and hid for several days. See, just on that alone, he should, now that I think about it, they should have upgraded that to at least second-degree murder, now that I think about it. After a dramatic manhunt that spans multiple states, Desper turned himself into authorities in the early hours of July 2nd, 2017. Wednesday's guilty plea came shortly before criminal proceedings were scheduled to begin. Still, emotions ran high. The courtroom remained eerily silent as Roberson and Desper's loved ones crowded inside. A sheriff's deputy warned both sides to remain calm and respectful. Roberson's mother was inconsolable. She rocked back and forth as a loved one attempted to quiet her. I can't breathe, Michelle Roberson said while stifling cries. Earlier in the day, the anguished mother put on a post on social media telling people to show up at the courthouse to support the family. Desper was originally charged with first and third degree murder, criminal homicide, possession of an instrument of crime, and reckless endangerment. He stood before the judge Wednesday in a dress shirt and pants. His voice shook and tears welled in his eyes. I'm nervous, he said. As both sides approached the bench, a lawyer representing the Roberson family said Chester County District Attorney Tom Hogan and law enforcement officials agreed to a third-degree guilty plea seemed adequate. No, the hell it is not. They should have stuck with that first. Now that I think about it, he should have stuck with that first and third degree shit. As both sides approached the bench, a lawyer representing the Roberson family said Chester County District Attorney Tom Hogan and law enforcement officials agreed to a third-degree guilty plea. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the same thing over again. Michelle Roberson shook in her seat. No one is happy with any of this, said Christopher Miller, the Roberson's attorney. No plea will ever bring Bianca Roberson back. Desper now faces up to 40 years in prison for the third-degree murder charge and additional time in prison for the weapons charge. He will be sentenced in late 2018 or early 2019. I'm not going to get too excited about this, because remember what happened in the most recent case with Jordan Edwards. where the guy who killed him faced up to 99 years in prison, and he only got, what was it, 15? So it says this guy can face up to 40. Now that I think about it, and let me go back to what I was saying, they should have hit him with that damn first-degree murder charge. Now that I think about it, but see, they probably felt they wasn't gonna have enough to make it stick. So that first-degree murder charge is always a risky one. Like, you have to prove without the shadow of a doubt that this person meant to kill her, but he did mean to kill her. Like, he drove alongside to pull out his gun and shot her in the head, and then he fled the state to Delaware and hid out for what, 4 days, knowing what he did. So I'm not gonna hold my breath on this one. And they probably told him to go ahead and plead guilty because they knew if he pleaded not guilty, then there was a chance that if it went to trial, they would have found him guilty, and then they would have hit him with all kinds of charges. So this practically was a plea deal and said, go for the lesser one, and we'll try to see if that one can stick. You will have to serve some time behind bars, but we're going to try to make it seem like make it where it's not as many years as possible. So I'm not going to get my hopes up with this. Y'all don't get your hopes up either. So I guess the next update that will come from this is when he actually gets into the year or early next year. Y'all let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. The link to the shirts will be down below. I'll talk to you in the next one.